Yes.
Tell me your personal story first. Hi, I am AJ. Here's where I'm from. Here's how I got into what I like to do. And let's just hear a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so first of all, hi, I'm AJ from Perlin. So if we go back to uni, I studied theoretical physics and manufacturing engineering, which is very different to what I'm doing right now.
Very different.
Yeah. And then I went into marketing, so I was a VP of marketing for a company. We did hotel TV screens, so we used to program those customized viewing portals that you had in those hotels like Hilton. So I did marketing for that. We scaled to about 7 countries, scaled the team out, but I got bored of marketing. So
this is like early in your career?
Yeah, very early in my career.
So physics at uni.
Yes.
And then market. You've been all over the place.
Yeah, I pretty much.
This sounds really... Okay. I won't cut you off anymore.
Yeah.
You're making displays for hotel monitors.
Yeah, so I was marketing, and then I got bored of marketing because I think if you look at the demographic for that was a red light, but
it was yellow. It was yellow when I started in there.
Yeah, so I got bored of marketing because the demographic for hotel owners is 50-year-old white males, which was our demographic, and it was just the same kind of marketing tactics over and over again. So I went into dev after that. So I worked as a dev for 2 years. So full stack development for websites and things like that. So I worked for a couple of different companies and did a couple of different startups. And then got into cryptocurrency early last year from a sort of investment perspective, and then looked into the space. I joined Republic Protocol. So Republic Protocol is the dark pool exchange, which you guys might have heard of before.
Yeah.
So I joined that team as one of the founding team members, did marketing and community there, and then also helped on the sort of product development side. And then after that, Perlin was founded last year in December. So I did part-time Perlin whilst doing a few other projects. But then when it actually started picking up speed, which was mid this year, I joined full-time as a head of product because there's a lot of things to be done. And that's sort of the story of how I got in.
So tell me how Perlin got started. It's not just you. Who else was involved early on, and how did that come together?
So there was a couple of co-founders. There's about 5 in total. So there's Dorji's son, who's the CEO, the project manager. So he did environmental work. So he did carbon conservation, and what he was passionate about was the fact that Perlin as a compute marketplace could be used for universal basic income as a long-term goal.
Yeah.
So essentially giving free mobile phones to people where they could earn income at night from computation, and then use that to transact in the marketplace and even locally. So if we could achieve $1.90 per day, we achieve universal basic income for people in the bottom 4 billion. So that's what he was really passionate about. That's what drew me into the project as well. Kenta was also passionate about universal basic income, but he's sort of the mastermind behind a lot of the cryptography and the technical side. So the proof of compute availability, which is a very technical piece of our project, and also things like the fully homomorphic encryption. So he was in charge of that. Trung and Mirza joined for the business development side, so they helped us with raising capital, talking to our first customers and working out what they actually wanted. So that's sort of how the team came together.
Gotcha. And what, obviously you're a founder, and so you've got oversight and involvement in many areas of the company. What do you feel like your major emphasis is for initiatives that you're focused on?
Yeah, so co-founder, but my role is head of product. So I think as a industry, we're moving into this phase from speculation to real growth and value. So I think now is the phase where we look into what customers actually want and building a product that they actually will use.
Right.
So that's why I think prior to this year, there wasn't many product managers or head of products for a lot of these crypto projects because they've been very technical.
Right.
But now you have to build and package something that a common user would use.
That an actual human being is going to touch.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So you look at all these compute marketplaces, but they're not built to service corporates that do artificial intelligence and have real use cases at AWS or Google services. So we're trying to sort of mimic those services in a decentralized fashion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
One of the sessions here that I wanted to get into was Designing for Humans, I think was the title of the session. It was somebody from IDEO, the design firm.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny that one of the most packed sessions on the first day of DevCon is about like how to work with human beings.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a lot of really brilliant minds here, and this stuff is so technical that I think a lot of the talent can get super deep into the weeds of how to, ZK snarks and all kinds of other stuff that I frankly don't understand very well. But working with humans, oh man, that's a mystery. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about Perlin. We've talked kind of on the edges of this, but give me the pitch for Perlin.
So Perlin is stemmed from the concept of universal basic income. So how can we give money to people for essentially free? And what we realized was mobile phones and laptops are plentiful. Like there are more devices than there are human beings on this planet. So with that in mind, and with the growth of Moore's law, and essentially seeing the fact that our computational needs will far exceed what our computational growth will be over the next 10 years, 20 years, we needed to be more efficient with our computing resources. So in fact, we use only 9 to 30% of our worldwide computational resources, depending on the type of device. So that means there's a lot of underutilized computation.
That's measured by time, right? At any given moment, we're only using this much, and a lot of processors are laying idle.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But when they say idle, it's like they're on. They are on, but they're just not doing anything.
Oh, really?
So it's even worse, right? They're not even off. They're actually turned on. So we want to try and increase that efficiency. So the idea was that we use mobile phones, laptops, while you're not using them, and rent that out to someone else who could use it. So for example, artificial intelligence models, data processing, video rendering, all kinds of different applications.
So there have been projects before, not even in blockchain. There have been projects before that try to take advantage of idle processor time. SETI Online is one that...
SETI at Home, yes.
Yeah, SETI at Home, there it is. Very old project, got a lot of press in the day. You don't hear about it much anymore, right? I think it was a novel idea, but I think there was probably some issues with trying to implement it, to actually find broad usage for this idle processor time. How are you overcoming that? How are you going to get people to build a system where the idle processor time is really productively used? I don't think that's a trivial problem, right?
Yeah,
you guys are attacking a difficult thing.
Yeah. So in terms of SETI at Home and all those projects, so that's built on a system called Boink, which was developed by David Anderson about 20 years ago. So it's quite an old system.
Very old.
And it's very effective in what it does, which is scientific research split amongst several different devices. And generally these specific types of tasks require large data sets, which are processed by thousands of different computers. But the issue with that is it's specific, so it can only do specific types of tasks and specific types of scientific research. The other thing is it's all donated compute, so it's volunteer computing, which limits the growth because people aren't actually making any money off it.
Right.
So it's, in a sense, it's kind of a different product to what we're building. And in regards to all the other projects that are building, cloud computing systems using a blockchain, so decentralized cloud computing. So there's a couple of issues, and I think it all comes down to adoption. The project that's going to be successful is the one that can gain adoption, right?
Right.
And right now, no one's even close to getting adoption near any of the cloud computing companies out there.
Yep.
So even if you look at the daily active users on like State of the dApps, the biggest one is like 1,500, which is abysmal.
It would be laughably low if I were in a different industry and could laugh at this objectively. But I'm in this industry and I care how many people are using it.
So we're now just upset about it.
Yeah, now it's like, oh, this is just kind of depressing.
Yeah.
It's like not anybody using this amazing technology.
Yeah. So if you look at the reasons why adoption isn't there, it just comes down to usability, right? So for example, some of the chains like Golem have public computation. So all your computation is exposed to the public.
Okay.
Just because they're built on Ethereum and they can't do much about it to keep the computation private. But if you look at corporate use cases, they're not willing to keep their computation public.
Proprietary information is critical for most industries, right? Like most growth info industries, they got to keep that stuff private.
Exactly. And then you're also transacting in a token that's volatile. So your compute is not necessarily going to be the same cost over time, and also you're bidding for compute all the time. So it doesn't really help corporates that have if they're using AWS, they have reliable service, they have private computation, they have a reliable cost over time, so they can predict it. They can do post-pay options, so they don't have to put up cryptocurrency in the beginning.
Right.
So there's a lot of different user things that sort of make it very difficult for these computation platforms to succeed. So these are some of the things that we're adding into our platform to make it essentially seem like a centralized service, but is decentralized on the back end.
Right. What are the challenges you're seeing as you try to build this out? It sounds like, partnerships are something that are going to be very important to you.
Yeah.
So I'll ask about that next. Challenges that you're facing, and then potential partnerships or industries that you're looking at.
Yeah. So if we look at adoption, and you can see it, right? Like with these marketplaces that are decentralized, you have a supply side and demand side, ideally. Mm-hmm. And you need to build both out. And I think in the past, projects have been good at doing one or the other, and haven't necessarily built out a proper marketplace that scales. So that's why we've been really focused on partnerships. So Perlin at the moment has over 50 partnerships, some of which we've disclosed, which is the Indian government. We've also secured a partnership with Telkom, which is the largest telecommunications company in Indonesia. And there's a couple of others, I can't mention them because I'm not running BD and all that.
Are you sure you don't want to tell me some of the upcoming secret big partnerships?
Well, so Telkomsel is a big one for us, just because, they're a mobile network and they're planning to help us onboard first the set-top boxes, which is 4 million set-top boxes across Indonesia, and then hopefully after that 160 million mobile phone devices, right? And that would be our supply side. We also have several partnerships with a number of crypto miners, because right now mining is solving a computation or a cryptographic puzzle that doesn't serve any purpose, right?
Right. It's arbitrary by design.
So now we can put these GPUs to use and actually do it for artificial intelligence and all of these different use cases. And then we have some university partnerships, which we haven't announced names yet, which are going to be providing compute at night, so they can monetize their computation, then use that money to even pay for their own research computation as well. So essentially having like free research computation done.
Right. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
There are other people in the space that are going after computation across the distributed network. Mm-hmm. What would you categorize as the biggest differentiator for Perlin? What sets you guys apart in the biggest way?
So I guess the main difference is to do with the fact that, like usability options, right? So the fact that payment requires cryptocurrency being staked at the time of computation, the fact that a lot of the guys are doing public computation, so none of it's private. So a lot of issues around that. But I think the biggest one is the fact that no one's actually getting adoption, and they're not having a strong BD proposal to go to corporates and say, hey, this is why we're equivalent to AWS, and this is how much money you can save. This is the tangible benefits of using us, not just saying, hey, we're decentralized, so use us, right?
Right.
And I think unfortunately, that's the value proposition that some of the projects are going for. Not even just in computing, just like in general.
Right.
We're this, but we're decentralized, so use us because, you're helping the people.
Now. Yeah.
So I think you need tangible benefits for real customers. So that's why we're doing this whole user experience thing, this product development side, and also building out the feature sets based on what the market wants. So we've done a lot of market surveys. So I've been talking to a lot of customers like artificial intelligence developers and all of these different people just to understand what they want and building a product based on that.
Right. We've said adoption several times. Adoption, right? Like, how do we drive adoption? So this is a challenge that you're facing, but it's also just a broader challenge in the blockchain space. Like, how do we drive greater adoption? Like, what are the challenges to just industry and usability for people to actually start using this technology that's been so difficult up to this point?
Well, you can see it from the DevCon sort of different topics that are being addressed, right? And a lot of today was about user experience. So user experience is a huge one. I think the second one is going to be sort of distilling your value proposition to something that's more tangible to real customers. And what I mean by that is, you'll save X amount of dollars, or you'll have this much more efficiency. And I think because unfortunately decentralized systems will always be less efficient than a centralized system, just because it's just faster to do things centralized.
Yeah.
So you need to come up with different innovative ways that will provide value to customers. So I think that's the challenges we face. I think there was a talk today about universal logins, which I thought was really interesting, and the way they're tackling the user experience and actually making it better than traditional logins, right? They're saying, you don't need passwords anymore. You can just have a laptop and a phone and they will verify each other. I think that's the sort of direction that we need to go in. How do we improve on centralized systems?
Right. How do we use this technology to actually make the experience better for people?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I turning too early? No. Yes, I was. We're good. We're good. How's life in Singapore?
Singapore is great. I think the community is just very welcoming. Everyone's ready to talk. I think it's so much easier to do business in Singapore, especially from our customer side. So if you look at a lot of our partnerships have come from Singapore. A lot of the AI companies we're talking to are in Singapore, and they've just been so open to helping us develop the product, even though they've openly said, hey, we don't like cryptocurrency. We're going to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so surprising to me.
Really?
Yeah, I would have thought that there would be more openness, because these are both technologies that are very much on the bleeding edge of what's being developed right now and have huge promise. I would have thought there'd be more, I don't know, overlap, affinity.
I guess so.
There are plenty. Yeah. There are several AI/blockchain projects that are bringing the two together.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I think people have strong opinions either way, right?
That's true.
A lot of the corporates we talked to have said, we don't like cryptocurrency. We don't want anything to do with cryptocurrency. And I think also the current market situation is impacting they're influencing their decision as well, right?
That's fair.
So that's what they hear from the mainstream media. So they don't see the development side. So really what we've had to do is, keep the cryptocurrency side aside. That's part of our project. We explain it to them as well. But say, hey, look, this is what we're building on the computation engine side. This is what you can do it. These are the feature sets. We will have normal payment structures, so you can just load your account with credits, which will be instantly changed into pearls when we do our computation, but you would never see any of that.
Right.
So that they've been quite open with that, even though they have this sort of bias against cryptocurrency, which is good.
That's so funny, the bias against cryptocurrency. Yeah, I think ultimately a lot of what's going to have to happen is for the cryptocurrency is going to be driving everything, but it's going to be under the hood, right?
Yeah.
Like the end user experience can't be about managing private keys necessarily, unless that's what you want to do, right? Those are very good for autonomy, managing your own wallet, your own tokens, all fantastic things to do, but it just needs to be made so dead simple that somebody who doesn't know how to do those things still has the option of engaging with the system. And it sounds like that's a lot of what people are talking about here at DevCon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really positive step. But I mean, I got to be honest, like the whole cryptocurrency thing has killed a lot of deals for us as well. Like we'll get to a certain point and then we say, hey, we have a cryptocurrency. And they'll be like, oh, okay, sorry, we don't want to do business anymore.
Really?
So, yeah, and I think it happens a lot. I think crypto projects and crypto startups have this sort of this shadow over us, unfortunately. And I think that is because of the market climate, and generally what the market does influences the opinions and how the general population feels, including, traditional businesses.
Wow. I would not have anticipated that. But it makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. How long do you think it's going to be till that changes? I don't think it'll be that way forever.
Well, I think it's got to be the guys that keep crypto under the hood, and it's like, hey, you've been using our product for a year. We've actually been using cryptocurrency this entire time, and then be like, oh, okay, cool. You know?
Yeah, it can be a lot less scary then.
Yeah, so I think that's the way it's going to be introduced to the mass market.
So you guys are building a Trojan horse, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, and I
sneak
think
crypto into people's lives.
Yeah. So our goal is like, and I know a lot of crypto projects have this goal, and I think it's the goal that we should all have, which is, you know, being the first application to hit 1 million daily active users, as a decentralized application.
Right. Google Maps keeps trying to tell me to go into the conference on roads that are not open, that are definitely blocked off. So it gets kind of tricky. But we are like, no, we're not at the conference center. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go to the Holiday Inn right where we started. Got to stop telling it to take me to the conference center, because every time I do that, it's like, you're at the conference center. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm on a road that's got a chain across it. Okay. Well, this has been good. I didn't know as much about Perlin when we started, but it sounds really cool. I'm super impressed that you guys started so recently.
Yeah. It was only last December.
Man, that's mind-blowing. It sounds like you've made huge progress since then. That's really a testament to the team you have. So, kudos.
I mean, it's been quite some time, and we still work startup hours, which is good. But yeah, we're gonna hit burnout soon, so we'll have to start looking at, you know, more efficient operating and management strategies.
Well, growing pains, right? Like that happens to anybody who's growing.
Yeah, but what's good is, like, you know, we don't even make any more work. It's just everyone's just so into the project, which is what you want.
If you've got the right team, like they're eager to spend those hours on it. Not always doable, and there are a lot of brilliant, capable people who can't make that what would be a sacrifice for them. You get the right team, and people are like, yeah, whatever it takes, let's do it. Let's do it now. That's a fantastic environment to be in. It's really energizing.
Yeah, and like, as silly as it sounds and as impossible as it may sound, like, we actually want to solve universal basic income one day. So
that's something that I didn't ask enough about.
Yeah.
I didn't see UBI on your website.
Well, I mean, that's not really a selling point. That's just the goal that we have internally, right? It's the selling point is the compute engine. We want to sell that to customers. But as a byproduct of that, we want to achieve something similar to UBI.
So talk to me about that part of it. UBI is such a fascinating topic that a lot of people are talking about a lot more, but it's fraught with differences in opinion on whether it's possible, how it might be possible, what systems could make this a doable, functional thing.
Yeah.
And one concern that I've seen people have is that implemented incorrectly, this could be totally ruinous.
Yeah.
Like, it could really mess up an economy. So how do you go about implementing something like UBI, assuming that, you know, everything goes the way you want it to, and you really do have the opportunity to implement a UBI system? Tell me about that. What does that look like fully realized?
Yeah, so I mean, economics in itself, and even crypto economics, is a huge beast to tackle, right? So on our team, we have Anup Milani, who's a professor of economics at Chicago University. So his main role is to, one, look at the UBI and also look at the token economics behind, token velocity, how we can make sure this whole thing doesn't crumble. Because, you know, once you've launched a contract or you've launched a circulating currency, you can't really change it. Whereas, you know, with, as you know from history, governments have bailed out economics, like, you know, a lot. Mm-hmm. when there's huge issues, right?
Right.
And we don't really have that option, so we're going to make sure we have it right. But circling back to UBI, it's got to be something that you're basically providing a service and you're getting paid for it. Whereas I think a lot of the UBI metrics are around like minting processes and creating money out of thin air, which doesn't actually
it's problematic.
it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
So when we had a look at it, we were like, what is something that we can tap into as a service that we can give to everyone, or someone that everyone already has? And mobile phones was one of those things. So the way we want to tackle it is essentially use everyone's mobile phone for computation and give them money for that.
That's interesting. I don't hear of many UBI projects that have a productivity angle to them. I think that's pretty unique to you guys.
So it's going to be something that, like, you're doing something for that money. It's just that the end user doesn't know they're doing something for it, but they are.
Right, like they're providing the service, even if they're not providing manual labor or expertise, like they're the owner of that service provided.
Yeah. Which is nothing new, but I think before, people who are in the poorest 4 billion don't have access to these kind of methods, right? Whereas the rich buy devices, mine crypto, you know, it's not a new thing.
Yeah,
or they buy server farms which people use, right? So making money in this way isn't new. It's just now we're scaling it down and trying to bring it down to the bottom 4 billion.
That's fantastic, man.
And it's a huge project. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but that's the final aim that we're going to keep running towards.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't happen on accident, right? Unless you set out to achieve that goal, there's no possibility of getting there.
So that's why we're working with Indonesia, India now. So those are some of the pilot cases we're going to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching how this goes. Very interested, because UBI is such a fascinating topic, but it's so tricky.
Yeah.
You guys can pull it off. I'm going to be immensely impressed and immediately want to become involved in some way.
Yeah. And this is the first time we're mentioning it on cameras. Which
is that true?
Well, I mean, going into the detail into UBI, yeah. But it's always been part of our mission statement.
That's really cool. Yeah. I'm honored to be the person to be able to share this with the world. Well, thanks for meeting with us and chatting.